Okay, you can do this. This is your story. Fingers to keyboard. Olivia, age 30, sits at her kitchen table, contemplating the last decade of her life. No. Let's be honest here. We have been contemplating our entire life. When I was a little girl, I believed I could be anything I wanted to be, and I often tried. I didn't have siblings until I was 9, and I was homeschooled all throughout middle school and high school, so story was my escape into a different world, a world where I could be anything. I lived in books, and eventually I wanted to write my own. And I think the things we're most passionate about as kids, they never leave us. They either grow or they get stifled under the pressures of adulthood. But that God-given creative gene is always there, waiting to be awakened.
This is to you, Olivia, our video diary.
And for a while, I tried really hard to keep those passions alive and to track my growth. I was determined to follow my dreams of going to school and becoming a writer.
So we're going to video diary everything. But anyways, I don't know what college you're at right now. Hopefully you're in college, Olivia.
I only needed to do 3 things.
Stay in school, don't do drugs, and don't get pregnant.
I'm happy to say I never did drugs. Talk about a plot twist. Overnight, I became a college dropout, gave birth to a kid I barely knew, and became a wife to a guy I barely knew. And here we were raising this kid who didn't really care what dreams we had before we had him. And I tried to keep up with those passions, but between the late nights and early mornings and having a cute kid stuck to your boob all day long, well, I gave up. Within a few years, that one kid turned into 2 kids, and then 3, and by the 4th, I stopped counting. Suddenly, my pants no longer fit, my skin was beginning to sag everywhere, and oh my God, when did I turn 30? It's like one day I woke up and I was drowning in postpartum depression and endless piles of laundry. I loved my family, but I knew that there was a better story than the one that we were living. And when I turned 30 this year, I decided that if I wanted to live a better story, I needed to write a better story. At the time of me filming this, it is almost 2024. We are about to enter into a new year, and like many of you are probably doing, I am also reflecting back on this last year, looking at the things that I achieved, the things that I have yet to achieve, and a lot of the goals that I have going into the new year. I've been looking at certain habits and cycles that I've had over the entirety of my life that have held me back from really achieving the goals that I want to achieve and becoming the woman that I want to become. This is going to sound very simple and like a duh kind of moment, but I've realized that everything that we do comes from our mindset, comes from how we feel about the things that we're doing, how we feel about ourselves. It is my mission going into 2024 to really go after the things that I have held myself back from doing. But it first starts internally before it starts externally. And so I want to sit down and share with you guys a little bit today about some of the things that I have been working on and 3 key principles that I'm going to be taking into 2024 to help set me up for success that I just want to share with you. So the first one, this one sounds simple, but it's huge and it's also very, very hard. And that is self-compassion. Becoming a mom at 20 and prior to that, I had so many dreams. I was also a pastor's kid. I grew up with a lot of eyes on me. And so when I became a mom at 20 years old, I felt so bad about myself, about my journey. And I was constantly trying to make things right. I was constantly trying to prove everybody else wrong, that I had not screwed up my life, that I was going to make something of myself. There was always this tension of me fighting with myself, beating myself down, constantly holding myself back because I was afraid that if I did something that I would fail at it and that it would show people, see, she is a screw up, she is a failure. And so I spent the majority of my 20s constantly in this cycle of trying and failing, and not because there were circumstances outside of me that were causing me to fail, but because I could not see past my own shame. And I had so many conversations with my mom about self-compassion. She's really been my teacher of self-compassion because of the work that she's done on herself. And something that she's been saying to me for the last few years is that there is already so much stuff happening outside of the world, so much hostility, so much hatred, so much anger. I refuse to create a hostile environment within. And that is something that until you get to that place, it is going to be very difficult to do all the other things. It's not impossible, because there's a lot of people who are very successful who do not like themselves, but it will always feel like you are running on this hamster wheel where you are never satisfied, and it doesn't matter what you achieve. You don't feel proud of yourself. You don't feel accomplished. You have no compassion, no empathy. And it really makes it hard for you to extend that to others. There is brain science behind this. Self-compassion fosters a healthier emotional environment within. And so when we are needing to make decisions, we are making them from a balanced state of mind. We are making them from a clearer state of thinking. And we're more likely to make decisions that are in our best interest, and we're able to be more solution oriented. And I'm going to recommend a book for each of these. I just thought about that. There's a couple, and I'm looking at my Audible playlist because I love Audible. This is not sponsored, but I use Audible for almost all of my reading just because it's easy when I'm running errands to pop in my AirPods and just listen. But I will give you a couple books that I love and highly recommend. The first one is The Science of Compassion by Kelly McGonigal. And she talks about, like the book says, the science behind compassion. Not only is she talking about it in terms of relating to others, but also having compassion for ourselves and how it truly does shape your life and it shapes your view of the world. Another one that I think is really good and that also gives tools, it's called Chatter by Ethan Kross. Ethan Kross is a psychologist, and in his book Chatter, he explores the different types of conversations that we have in our head, thoughts that lead to anxiety, overthinking, negative talk, being critical of ourselves, and how we can overcome that. A lot of tools in there, a lot of science-based data, and so those two are great. I also recommend things by Brene Brown. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of Brene Brown, but any book by her, I love. I think that's a good foundation, is getting to a place of self-compassion, going into goal setting, making one of your values that you are going to be a friend to yourself as you set these goals, that you are not doing it solely for anybody else. I mean, all of the things that we try to accomplish can and should impact the world and the people around us in a positive way. But first and foremost, you are doing this because you are being kind to yourself. You are being a friend to yourself. And in being a friend to yourself, you are then able to love and be a friend and show compassion and empathy to others. So the second framework is beginning with the end in mind. Now, this is a concept created by Stephen Covey. He was the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That is also a great book. I highly recommend that for this one that I'm sharing. I love framing my life with this phrase, is beginning with the end in mind. And what that means is before you step out into goal planning, goal setting, that you visualize where you want to go. For example, when we're going somewhere that we've never gone before and we get the address and we put it into our phone brings up the map, right? And it shows us the destination. And then it'll show us the ways in which we can get there. But first, you have to know where you're going in order for the map to appear. And the same is with our life. During my 20s, I really just kind of let life happen to me. I was not very intentional about where I wanted to go. I was stuck in this cycle of shame, of guilt, of feeling frustrated with choices that I had made, and never really knowing how to get out of that. Out of my own, feelings of self-betrayal, I would make choices that just kind of kept me on this pattern. For a long time, I felt like it was too late for me, like I had made too many wrong turns and it was too late to get back on track. But this is all a part of the story. This is all a part of the journey. When I look at the next year, I've really had to visualize, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? And what do I want to experience as I'm on this journey? There's so many things that I want to accomplish. I want to write my first TV pilot this year for a project that I'm working on with my family. And it can feel really daunting and overwhelming. I haven't really had the ability to see myself doing those things. So when I first had the idea, I was like I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'm cut out for that. And I had to start reframing that as, how would somebody who is cut out for that, how would they view themselves? How do they look at that type of work? How do they look at their ability, their skill set? And I've realized that a lot of the most successful people don't just have talent. They have skill. They have a certain way that they view their work ethic, that they view learning. They throw themselves into learning their craft. And so that's another part of beginning with the end in mind that I am really focused on, is not just, okay, well, where do I want to be a year from now? But who do I need to become in order to sustain those things? Those are mindsets and frameworks that for me are really important when going into goal setting. So again, begin with the end in mind. So the last one is something that has been a little bit harder for me to put into practice, but I'm definitely going to be putting it into practice, especially on my YouTube channel. And that is a quote by Samuel Beckett that says, "Try again, fail better." Samuel Beckett was a novelist, an author, a poet, and I love that quote. For so long, I have let analysis paralysis, or the desire to be perfect, hold me back from putting out my art into the world, because I'm afraid of what people might think or what people might say or not say. Oftentimes I will work so hard on something for so long that I end up hating it, and then I don't put it out because I've just been so focused on trying to get it perfect, realizing that I can never get it perfect, and then giving up and trashing it completely. But the only way that we can truly get better at something is by allowing ourselves to fail at it. The thing about failure is that it's actually information. We learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. I'm watching my youngest son learn to crawl, and he is not quite there yet. He gets up on his knees and then he plops back down and he scoots around, and he hasn't really figured out how to do it yet. But the thing that I love about watching him is that he keeps trying, and eventually he's gonna start crawling. We all started there. We all started off with getting up, failing, falling down, falling over, tumbling over, and then getting back up again until eventually we were running everywhere. The thing about children that's so beautiful is that they don't have that self-critical talk. They don't fall to the ground and go, "Oh, I'm just such a failure. I'm never gonna walk." Kids don't do that. We do that. Kids fall, they might cry, they might get a little frustrated, and then they get back up again. So going into 2024, as I look at the things that I want to accomplish, the things that I have held myself back from accomplishing, like, look, this video that I'm working on right now, the video that you're watching, I have sat on this for months. The footage, as you can see, I have different hair, I did different scenes. I worked on it and I would get frustrated and I didn't like it, and then I'd pick it back up again, and then I would give up. That is something that I am really wanting to work on this year, is that I allow myself to fail. I allow things to look ugly before they can look pretty. I allow myself to plop on the ground, fall over, maybe cry a little bit, and then get back up and try again. We do such a disservice to ourselves and to the gifts that God has given us when we just stuff them down and don't allow the world to see them. And eventually, the more that you put it into practice, the better you become. And so I am focused on allowing myself to fail and to fail better every time. We all have a beginning, and you don't want to despise those small beginnings. And this is something that I continuously have to remind myself, that this is the worst I will ever be. As long as I keep trying, this is the worst it's ever going to be. And then when I do a little bit better next time, that's the worst it's ever going to be. And the more that I continue to do better and better, you look up one day and you're like, wow, I've actually grown a lot. Now, my book for that is one that I just finished and I really love. I'm actually going to listen to it again. And it is called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Again, I listened to it on Audible. It talks about the resistance that we all face as creatives and how to push past that. And so I highly recommend that one. I truly believe that we are all creative beings, that God created us to produce, to put out things into the world that make the world better. It doesn't matter if you're a mathematician or a singer or a writer or a dancer or a scientist, it's all creative. I just want to encourage you on your journey that if you are in a place where you're stuck, where you feel like it's too late, where you've been harsh on yourself, critical, judgmental of yourself, that it's not too late. I also highly recommend the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. That is one of my all-time favorite books. I've read that book a few times now, but I believe her tagline is creative living beyond fear. And that one is really good as well, because anytime I feel stuck, anytime I feel like I'm in a rut where creativity is concerned, I realize a lot of times that it's fear. It's fear of what others might think. It's fear of failing that is really holding me back. And so those are two books. That's four. Those are two books that I recommend: The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield and Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. No matter what it is that you are endeavoring to achieve this coming year, I believe starting from a place of self-compassion, where you're just kind to yourself, that you're gentle to yourself, that you're honest with yourself, that you go into the year visualizing, where do I want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, at the end of my life, where do I want to be and who do I need to be in order to achieve those things? And then allowing yourself to try, allowing yourself to fail, allowing yourself to get back on track. I think all of those things will set you up for success, no matter what it is that you're trying to achieve. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you have an amazing 2024. This is not the last video you are going to see from me. Keep me accountable, because we're all in this together. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.